Today is a wonderful, wonderful day. Today may be one of the best days of my life. Because today is a day that I, Brian Crawford, never have to touch the lid of a trash can again. That's right, we talked about it not too long ago. The motion-censored stainless steel trash can. I did a demonstration for you live from my toilet just the other day, and I have brought her here to show everybody live right here on River Talk. Give me 1 second. Here, I'm here with Michael Cohen. Michael, I want to show you the trash can. Are you excited?
Let's see your weird robot trash can,
Are you
Brian.
like literally shaking?
It's a
with
half
joy.
It's
I mean, it's oh my
active,
god,
though.
it's that's what I'm saying. Let me bring it up. What should we name her? Or?
It turned over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's. Here it is. It's from a company called 9 Stars, stainless steel. What are you saying?
Oh.
It doesn't need plugged in. It's
No,
good.
you knocked my headphone
Oh,
out.
okay,
I
so
thought
we
your
have-
mic had gone dead.
We have her right here. Hold on. I got to turn her on. 9 Stars, stainless steel. Look at this. Watch this. That is the baby. Another trash can birthed this trash can. It's going up. For those of you who are listening, it is a stainless steel, beautiful, sleek trash can. And when you wave your hand over it, the lid pops up on its own, and then you give it a second, and it comes back down. It's unbelievable.
What is that
Super,
smell? What?
Probably trash.
No, it has like a perfumey smell. It smells like the
Like a fine lady.
no, like the Guidos in my college classes.
Like a fine lady. No, this trash can has changed my life. I have not had to touch the trash can except for one time. And the reason why was because on the kitchen one, if you have to do extended trash dumping, they have an open and close button, so you don't have to worry about it closing on you when you're going back to grab more trash or while you're in the middle of scooping something out of something. So if you are doing more than just a simple throwaway, you have the option to leave the trash lid open until you click the close button.
They thought of everything.
They thought of everything. I mean, it is beautiful. It was only $60-some. I was talking to my mother who bought 2 stainless steel small size trash cans like that with foot pedals for bathrooms. We're talking about just 2 bathroom ones. We're not even talking about the kitchen one. Just 2 bathroom ones. Same price. Maybe more. Maybe more. No motion sensor. No future technology. Nothing amazing like this. I mean, this trash can has gotten so much notoriety, Michael.
Yeah.
That they were talking about it just before this show, specifically about my trash can on AwesomeCast. We're talking one of the first podcasts in Pittsburgh, one of the longest running podcasts in Pittsburgh, and I was the topic of conversation because of my amazing stainless steel motion-censored trash cans.
Fantastic.
I'm here with Michael Cohen. This is Brian Crawford. That is the breaking news of the day here on River Talk, broadcasting from Mr. Small's Theater in the River's Edge Network at riversedgepgh.com, Pittsburgh's voice for local music. The number one story today, obviously, is the motion-censored trash cans, which have changed my life really in a big way. In a big, big way. Because those foot pedal ones, they always break. Most of the time, they look chintzy. This looks sharp. This looks like something that you would want in your kitchen. Am I wrong? Am I crazy for thinking this?
I would happily take one of those in my kitchen.
That's what I'm saying.
With that said, without it, every time I throw my trash away myself, I'm going to pretend that someone has hired me for $60 to throw my own trash away.
Yeah, whereas, I mean, but it's $60 at a one-time fee. Think about the lifetime of savings in medical visits, disease, bodily contamination.
Brian, do you know how many times I've been to a hospital for myself in my adult life?
How many times?
0.
I haven't been either, and you know why? That's because I don't touch the lids of trash cans.
I broke a toe and didn't go. The big toe, the one
we'll
that
see.
puts you on crutches for a month and a half. No hospitals.
No hospitals. Well, that's because you're dumb. Why would you break a toe and not go to a hospital? That's just lunacy.
I didn't want to catch what's the one that
Gonorrhea?
bubbles out of your fucking face. Staph.
You don't want to catch.
I didn't want staph.
Well, see, you will never have to worry about getting staph by germs on a trash can if it's motion censored. Today is a big day on the show. We're going to talk more about my motion censored trash can. We also have Standard Broadcast in studio. They're going to be talking about the 3rd Annual Indie-Rockfest, which I'm super excited about, on April 14th at 4 p.m. It's going to be amazing. So we've got that as well. We're also going to be talking about Rick Santorum, who has some advice for some kids who are caught up in active shooting situations. So you can always count on the states, I'm sorry, not the state, on the U.S. Senate and former U.S. senators to bring you sound, sage-like advice when you're caught up in a disaster situation. And we're also going to talk about winos, dangerous sneezing, and then Michael has some stuff for us as well. We also have the judging, which we're going to be moving the judging to the second half of the show, and that's because Standard Broadcast, they're organizing, well, at least Nathan is organizing the Indie-Rockfest, so obviously they're in demand and extremely high-end important, so they just can't bring themselves to stay for the entire show. So they're only going to be here for the first half. However, maybe we can convince some of them to stick around. We will see. So I want to talk with you guys, with Standard Broadcast. They're here in studio, and you guys are going to be performing at the 3rd Annual Indie-Rockfest. And have you been at all 3? I imagine you have been since, Nathan, you organized it.
Yes, we've been in all 3, and it actually, it started out of the competition, the Winter Rock Showcase.
Oh, wait. Oh, it started off of that. Oh, that's interesting.
It kind of was born out of that.
Okay. Can you explain?
Yeah. So we would play the Winter Rock Showcase, and there was 4 other bands that we really liked. It was the Dove Wires, The Show, There You Are, and A Little Less Human. And when you play something like that event, you only have like 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You do like 2 or 3 songs, you're in and out, and really kind of sucks that way. And our band actually just really enjoyed the other 4 bands, and there wasn't a really a competitive atmosphere with those other 4 bands. We just really enjoyed each other's company, so I'm like, hey, we got to do this again.
Yeah.
And just actually play a legit show, because I wanted to hear more songs, from everybody. So that was the first Indie-Rockfest, which back in 2016 it was.
So There You Are has been there from the beginning as well?
From the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, us and There You Are, the only 2 that have been there all 3 years so far. And we love those guys. They're super good. Just
I feel like it's a complete...
We had them in last week, and they don't feel the same about y'all.
Oh, they hate you.
You're lying. I watched that. I watched that live.
But you should have heard what they said off camera. Oh my goodness.
No, but yeah. So that's how it was kind of ironic that it started at like a competition setting, and then turned into like just a really fun event. And then
has it always been a Cativa?
Yeah. Renee and
we're talking to Nathan right now. Nathan J of Standard Broadcast.
And they've been really easy to work with, super easy to kind of get like in and out there, and the sound is really, really good there. And they have two nice stages. The big stage is downstairs. They have kind of like a smaller stage upstairs. Where last year when we had 12 bands, the first year we had 5. Last year we got the whole venue and did 12 bands. It was a really, really good event, but it went really late. I think the last band went on like close to 1.
Okay.
And that's just, it turned out to be too late. Like, I'm not a festival organizing guy. Like, I'm just a musician, and
you do a pretty good job though, right? I mean, I've been there. It was good.
I just like supporting local music, and there's just so many good bands out there that I just want to give everybody their own like stage for that. So last year we had the 12, and that just turned out to be too many for that event.
So how many do you have
we have
this year?
7.
7 this year?
And this is the first year we have.
That's a lucky number in a lot of cultures.
That's right.
Did that go into your
No, my
process?
lucky number is ironically 8.
Oh, 8. Why didn't you go with 8?
Because
this entire festival is at risk now because you decided to go with one less band.
We did have 8. Unfortunately, we had Lo-Fi Delphi was the 8th
band. That's right.
And we were super pumped to have them, and they were super stoked to be on. And then there ended up being a scheduling conflict, and they were real bummed out, so they had to back out. But they invited us to play a show, so we're going to be playing a show with them in June. So that worked out as far as playing a show with them, because I'm a fan of theirs, and can't wait to play a show with them.
So you guys are going to be downstairs this year?
Yeah, so we got the bigger, I think it holds like 250, 300 people down there. It's the soundboard, I think, is like a $60,000 soundboard down there. Like the sound is awesome there. And then this way we can start around and have it running between like 4 and 11. Like the first, we have an MC this year, which is Jeremy K.
Yeah, we had him on last week.
Yeah, he's
last week was our kickoff week to the Indie-Rockfest on April 14th.
And everyone likes Jeremy. Jeremy has a special place in my heart because the very first show Standard Broadcast ever played, which was we were a trio. There's only 3 of us. and he was the sound guy at Hambones. We played on like a Thursday night or like a Tuesday or something random, and he was really good, and we were super nervous, and he was just very accommodating and very patient with us. So, he's just a really good guy. I'm over at Acoustic Cafe all the time, and he does a great job.
Yeah, he's always here for that.
Yeah, he's just, if you play music in Pittsburgh, you've run into him, a couple times, I'm sure.
So Nathan is not the only one in standard broadcast. We also have Leland and Adam.
Yes.
Leland, you've been there. Have you been there all 3 years?
I've been one of the founding members.
Members of standard broadcast. So you've been
Nathan
performing all 3 years.
All 3 years from Hambones.
At the Indie-Rockfest, but at the Indie-Rockfest, yeah.
Absolutely
So
love it there.
what's your favorite memory at the Indie-Rockfest? Since you've been there from the beginning.
It was last year, just all the bands, and they were just all different, and it's good to actually have that different kind of music.
Yeah, last year was cool, the way it kind of bounced back and forth and everything.
Nice,
It was neat, yeah.
It was absolutely amazing. This year, I know we have a diverse, like, everybody from BB Guns, who are more hip-hop, Soundhound, who's more like a jazz, female vocalist, soul kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
It's just a good
Well, you've got Back
variety.
Alley. They're also hip-hop as well.
Back
So it's
Alley's
definitely
like
a big mix. I feel like it's more of a mix this year. Even though
Yeah.
there's less bands, there's more of a mix this year, I feel like, as far as
Oh, yeah.
different types of genres than there was
Absolutely.
last year.
But
So.
I'm excited for this year. Like last year was good. We had just a lot of bands, and it was just owning Contivo that you saw a band upstairs. Great, who's next? Gonna go downstairs. But this year, I think we're more like streamlined. We have more more different bands, I should say. So.
Do you do anything? Do you have anything to do with the organizing of the festival?
Just talk to Nate and everything. Like I give those little
See,
recommendations.
so that's like
and
the best thing.
everything else.
Like the Millville Music Festival, we've been
Yeah.
doing these fundraising series, and I don't do anything. I just promote it, and I show up, and I drink beer.
Good.
And that's it.
It's the best.
And it's great. I don't even have to perform. See, I've got like one up on you. I've really mastered the art of doing nothing.
It's truly, it's whispering in this man's ear, just being like, I think they should go on third.
Uh-huh.
I think they should just warm. I think we should go on fourth. Let them warm us up.
There we
and
go.
then we can go on. Then, from there too.
Then
So.
I'm like, no.
Yeah. We also
Thank you for your input. Duly noted.
we have Adam as well. Now, Adam, you're new. You've never performed at Indie-Rockfest.
Never.
And here you are. You've already made it into the studio. What the hell's up with that? You never even played, and here you are. Here you are in the River's Edge studio before Pittsburgh's moral compass, Brian Crawford.
You see that? It's all because of Nate.
It's all because of Nate. There we go.
It's going back.
So how did you get involved with standard broadcast?
I actually saw a post online and I reached out and played one little band practice with them, and
Were you
thankfully they
familiar
liked
with
me.
them beforehand?
No,
No, really.
no.
Okay.
I just got here to Pittsburgh. I just saw the
Where are
ad.
you from?
I moved here from Israel.
Oh, that's right. You said that before we went on
Yeah.
air. So so you moved literally to Pittsburgh from Israel.
Yeah. Well, a little bit in my mother-in-law's house and then here.
Okay, so that's interesting. Why did you move to the United States?
Well, my wife, she's moving a branch of her company that started in Tel Aviv. It's a
Okay.
startup, and she's moving and opening a branch here in Pittsburgh.
So you
called
can
Santorum.
you speak Israeli?
I can.
Can you say something on air that's
שמע, אני לא יכול לדבר עברית פה, אבל... That's
no?
it.
What does that mean?
I said I can't speak Hebrew here. It's not good.
Oh, see, that might be the first time that someone's spoken in a different language on this network, on the entire network. That's like
I
the
can
I can
first
speak
time.
an Israeli accent if you want the rest of the show. Yeah, I can do that for you. It's okay.
So what did you do over in Israel? Did you perform in different bands
I was in a
overseas?
few bands in Israel. Nothing that hit anything. I just performed for fun. Once I came here, I really wanted to take music seriously, and then luckily I found Nate and Leland, Standard Broadcast, and Jeff.
I mean, you kind of came overseas and then jumped into an amazing band. So that's kind of cool because a lot of people, they have been in Pittsburgh, for quite some time, and maybe they're not in a great band or they're not in a band that's
Yeah,
had
I've been
this
here
kind
for
of success.
3 years and I'm not in a band yet.
You see?
Fuck.
I never even made it into a band, and I own a radio network.
We're so critical of our band members that nobody else in the States were up to par. We were like, we have to go.
Had to recruit overseas.
No, but Adam is awesome, and I took the place of Holly, who's amazing as well, and she stepped down from the band, and we were just really fortunate to have someone like Adam just step up right away, and just clicked. Everything worked really well.
I feel like not many bands get an international star to come in and join the crew.
International stuff.
Yeah, he's
You're there.
playing in our first practice, and we're looking around, we're like, Okay.
We'll think about it. We'll call you and everything. Back to scenes like, please help me.
Now here's a real question, because we have some riffraff, some vagrants, some people who are out to ruin this studio from the inside, insiders who will be expunged and terminated, and we're working on catching them. I have some devices now that are being set up as we speak, and soon we'll have a security system in the studio where I can spy on people at all times to see who's leaving filth and leaving rubbish in their wake. People who would not respect a motion censored trash can. So you've come from Israel. Do you keep the studio space clean, the practice place clean? I imagine. I imagine you're respectful, right? Otherwise, they would have kicked you out. Like I'm working on kicking out whoever it is that is disrespectful and spits in the face of this microphone.
The studio is spotless in my house.
Spotless. See, there we go.
We
Oh wait, you practiced at his house.
Yeah.
We not only picked up an amazing guitars, we picked up a practice space which you could eat off the floor in.
Damn!
And wait, Adam, what is your background?
Audio engineering.
See, there we go. That's what it's.
Triple threat.
We could use a
AAA.
volunteer here at the River's Edge.
With pleasure.
No, that's amazing. No, I wish that's great, because like we have the opposite problem. We have people in here. They treat this place like it's like some sort of frat party at all times. I mean, you come in here, it's like toilet paper hanging from the ceiling. It's ridiculous, rubbish in the truest form. So, but it's not like that at Kativa.
I have ladies over for dextromethorphan parties.
See, you're gonna get kicked out.
Yeah.
So.
No, totally.
So I'm looking for somebody else to join the River Talk cast. If you are interested, you can hit me up on Twitter at RiverTalkPGH,
Just
or you
NyQuil
can
and chill.
you can reach me also via email. My email address is briancrawford@riversedgepgh.com, and we'll get this guy out of here. So I'm really excited about Indie Rock Fest, the third annual, on the 14th at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I think next year you should try to like zhuzh that up better. So like next year, okay, no, what I'm saying is, hear me out.
I agree.
no,
I agree.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. So right now it's 14. It's April, so it's 4/14, 4 p.m. Imagine if it was the fourth annual. That's what I'm saying. So then you would have the fourth annual, and that's what I mean by zhuzhing it up better, like lining those numbers up, like the stars,
April
like
4th then.
yeah.
We should
So if
shoot
it was
for.
like no, but 14th is fine. But I'm saying like if it was like the fourth
But it will be
annual.
next year, April 4th.
Yeah, so exactly. So so the fourth annual, April 4th, the 4 p.m. Then you've got just like straight fours.
I like it.
I think that's the way to go.
I agree.
That's
I'm turning this over to you now, so you
that'd be pretty
you can run
badass.
Indie Rock 4, please.
no. You can run it. I've got enough. I'm running enough shit.
No. I like what you're saying. I think.
No, I'm just saying like all fours. You're just like, damn.
Yeah,
It's all
well.
fours.
Let's give a shout out to our sponsors too.
Let's do
which
so.
are you guys,
Yeah, the River's Edge.
River's Edge, who
Pittsburgh's
have
voice for local
been
music.
amazing. Yeah, and I don't know if you get enough credit for all the promotion you've been doing. So Brian, thank you very much, and River's Edge. And we have Mike Pittsburgh as well. They're coming back for the second year, and Emily Plazek from them has been phenomenal.
She's very cool.
Helping build careers for musicians and independent musicians in Pittsburgh, and just love what they're all about. So check them out. And last but not least, for the first year, is Urban Capital Group is the main stage sponsor, and they have a special place in my heart because they're my employer.
There you go.
So
That's great when your employer gets involved.
yeah, no, this is.
I've been thinking about a career change.
All joking aside, this is a really cool company
That's really cool, though.
Yeah, my background is I had my own painting and carpentry company for about 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And I left that to go work for them.
What do you do with
They're
them?
real estate investments, so we like flip houses. So I'm like, I'm like a crew manager, like on the job site. I do the work and make sure the houses get flipped and stuff on the time.
You don't work
and
for
everything.
what's his name, right? That guy who's
Not
always
what's
on.
his name? No.
Who, Joe Callett?
No. Okay, so there you go. Not the same guy I'm thinking.
No. Urban Capital Group, and they're like two really young owners, Arch and Ryan.
Not
and
the same guys.
They're two totally different guys, but a really good company, and they've been great to me. And the one owner, Arch, is just a huge fan of music and local music, especially. And then also the I think one of the operations manager, Todd Knepp, the singer for the Dove Wires.
Yeah, I know Todd.
Yeah, so he works there too. So like they're like two, like him and I are two like frontmen of Pittsburgh bands that like work in this company, and the owners love like music and local music. So they gave us a nice cash like donation, which this whole event, which what I want this to become moving forward even more so, it's always just like a benefit. But the main gist of this festival is like a benefit for the musicians involved, because I feel like anytime there's any kind of benefit or a foundation like event, musicians are always like the first people with their hands up in the air saying like, yeah, I'll help. Let's do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's not something that's established every year for that for local music. I mean, you have like a lot of really good festivals, but that's and you do get some money out of that, so I'm not taking anything away from it, but I would love this to be the event every year that, you know, helps these musicians get their demos out, or like allows them to be able to buy t-shirts for their merch department, and like supports local music.
I feel like the weed trade in this city is just one big fundraiser for musicians.
Yeah.
No? Am I wrong?
I don't know, but that was the kind of like the idea behind Indie-Rockfest, because it's independent music, or I'm even open to like independent labels, you know, like Misra and stuff like that have like we had. Well, it was supposed to be Daily Grind, but it turned out being Back Alley Sound with Miles Mahoney. That's how that kind of.
Now, are they connected to Misra?
Back Alley Sound isn't, but Miles is. In
Miles
Daily
is,
Grind,
okay.
And you know, so that's how kind of that worked out. But Jeff Benton, who runs Misra, is just a super great guy, like a really nice guy. And,
and you know what? I got a bone to pick with him too. So now hear me out. So we were at the Sound Scene Express Music Awards, and they had different pictures on display. For people could vote for like the best picture taken of anything in music.
He won.
Yeah, and you know, my festival was one of the pictures that was featured. So you know,
you think palms were graced?
What's I don't know. No, I'm not gonna go that far.
I was at that show. Jeff played. That was a really good
Jeff's
show.
great,
Where that picture was taken from, that was a really good show.
Yeah, Jeff's a good guy. I was there as
great.
well. I think I ran into you when I was there. But
yeah.
No, Jeff's great. Good. Congratulations to him. But yeah, he beat me out there. I'm like, what the hell?
So that's what we want people to come out. 100% of the money that you pay to get in the door, or any kind of advertising or sponsorship we had, just goes to the musicians that are involved in these shows. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, that's great. So what's next for the Indie-Rockfest after this year?
Indie-Rockfest, I'm just taking a year at a time right now. Hopefully we're all doing this and do it again next year. As long as people are having a good time, like the musicians. That was the other thing too that was important to me, since our band is in this, and you know we play out locally. Unfortunately, a lot of the culture with playing shows in Pittsburgh is pay to play, which I totally get. You got to pay the sound guy, door guy, whatever. But for the artists involved, I made it a point where like I just pay for everything. It's like pretty much I'm just throwing a big party. Like so I pay for the event space and everything, and then all the bands involved, like I don't make them like you got to sell X amount of tickets, or you got to get this many likes to the page or anything like that, which is just kind of what just brings down any kind of event when you're playing your own shows. So not only was it meant to be an event to raise money for these artists, but just a pure networking event for the musicians themselves to like, and that's how honestly we've made a lot of friends that way and played shows with other bands. So, and that seems to be the good takeaway that I've got back from bands that have played. They're like, oh man, this is so cool. Now we're playing shows with, fill in the blank band that we met at Indie-Rockfest. So it's a super chill, laid back experience for the performers involved and the artists, which is not that way. Like when you play any other show, even if you're playing a show at, the local fire hall or something, you still gotta like sell tickets and like get people out there. So it's kind of why.
Now, do you expect people to promote it though? Because that's one thing. Like,
I expect them to, but it's kind of like I feel, and what I've seen, it's almost like if you don't ask them, they're more. They almost do more than if you made it mandatory, because then it becomes like
a job.
So you don't give them you don't give them any direction or anything on what to do.
No, I do. I mean, like everything. I mean, they're all adults. It's all not rocket science. Like they have the event.
You'd be surprised though.
Yeah,
you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Like, the music festival, we didn't even announce who was performing yet, and people were making posts about it, and I'm like, thanks. So you've completely killed our buzz on, for the Millville Music Festival, and how to, you've killed our buzz on being able to get the word out there effectively. So,
we usually have a meeting, or at least, every year I start like a Facebook Messenger group so everyone can comment, and and that's the easiest way I've found, just like post to get things out, and everyone's like obviously in that group conversation. So so you don't have to have like a physical interaction meeting, but that's how I get everything out to all the bands, and just keep them up, and I'll post things just like, hey, promote it. This is I promoted that There You Are was on last week, and we're on this week and stuff. So I'm really, really happy that you've been bringing people in. It's like every year it's getting bigger and bigger, more promotion.
Yeah, so every year, so every week, every Sunday leading up into the festival, we will have a different band on that's performing at Indie-Rockfest. And I'm talking with one band about maybe doing like a little surprise interview. I call them River Talk Extras, where we'll bring somebody else in and just have like a straight up, interview with them and kind of ask them what they're doing and what's going on and why they're excited about
you had me do a promo and everything this year. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Got a little 30-minute spot on the radio, so that's nice.
30-minute spot.
Or 30-second spot.
It's not a 30-minute promo. That would be one hell of a promo.
That would be horrible. 30 seconds. Yeah.
That would be. I watched a promo today. It was for they're bringing back Roseanne.
We had an infomercial for the festival, right?
Well, yeah, and exactly. That's what it would be. So yeah, so to basically let you know, like, so Roseanne was doing kind of a similar thing, and they had a 30-second promo, and they wanted to let people know that Roseanne was back. I don't know if you saw it, and the girl's like, Roseanne's back, and then they had like 25 seconds to work with.
Right.
So and I was like, that would have been, the 30-minute promo. You would have just been going really slow, like, we're back. So very cool. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Anything different this year that we haven't seen in the last few years?
Yeah, Leland had mentioned it. This year I wanted to make a point to involve, and this is something moving forward that I'd probably do even more of. Instead of, Indie Rock is the name of the fest, Indie-Rockfest, but the gist, again, is more just independent musicians in Pittsburgh. So we're bringing in like BB guns and having Back Alley Sound back.
Yeah.
So and before, we kind of like internally did different things for pulling the band names and how they would perform this year. Since we are getting a more eclectic group of music, I'm actually going to pick the sets. Because I want to have a really good flow to the show, so it's just not so. And everyone that's going to be in the same room, so it's not like you can see a band like last year decide to like hang downstairs and have a beer, and maybe you missed that one. This year, if you're in the room, you're going to see the whole show. So I think it's important not to have like a folk rock band like follow like a heavy band like There You Are, like that wouldn't be fair. Like, we've all played shows like that where it sucks that you follow a band, like or you open for a band that's So I'm taking that I'm actually fans of all these different bands. That's how this festival's a little different that way too, because we don't take submissions. Like I just have picked bands that I really enjoy, and I might change that up in the future to add submissions. But you guys know with Millville, I'm not really looking forward to getting 500 band submissions.
Real quick, Adam's on his way out.
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
So Adam's on his way to work. So
Back to Israel. Yep.
Back to Israel. Yes.
I'll see you at practice tomorrow.
That's Adam. Adam of Standard Broadcast. We're talking with Nathan and Leland, and really excited. It's gonna be a great event. So Leland, what are your last thoughts on the Indie-Rockfest before we move into the weird news?
Just come out.
Please come out. Support. $10.
Yeah, $10.
$10, which is nothing. So that's like maybe like what is like a less than $1 a quarter for bands.
Well, and Jeremy's performing too. He's emceeing.
Oh, he's performing.
And
so there you go.
He's getting two sets.
Eight. That brings 8 performers at the event, which is your lucky number.
It is my lucky number. So
there we go.
Let's sell this thing out. It shouldn't be that hard.
Exactly.
Let's sell it out.
So Indie-Rockfest 3rd annual, April 14th at 4 p.m. 4. If it was only 2014, we'd really be like killing it with the 4s. So that's Nathan J. We also have Leland of Standard Broadcast. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys want to stick around, you're welcome to. If not, I understand you got to go. But we got to go into the weird news. Let's get that music rolling. All right. It is the weird news section where Michael and I come up with not one, not two, but 3 weird stories to keep the Mon Monster at bay, where we single-handedly save the entire city of Pittsburgh from total destruction. And that was Dawn Strange leading us into the segment with his song number 1, Weapon. So today I want to talk about illness. We brought in the trash can. We brought in the motion-censored, battery-powered, stainless steel, beautiful trash can to
It's a
show
lovely
everybody
trash
off.
can, Brian.
What's that?
It's a lovely trash
It's a
can.
lovely trash can. And, having something that's motion-censored means that you don't have to worry about germs when you have to throw something away. But, people do worry about germs, people who are germaphobes. So they're worrying about sneezing, right? They don't want to sneeze and spread their bacteria all across the land, so they do different things to avoid it. I'm here on air. I wouldn't want to sneeze on air because that would, well, first off, that might get the person sick who's soiling the studio, so that might be a good thing. But beyond that, it's not good for the listener. If I'm sneezing on air, it creates a bad sound. So sometimes people try to not sneeze, and sometimes you can hold it off and walk out of the room and sneeze, but other times you can't do it. So some people will shut their mouth and hold their nose, and they will then sneeze, but they won't let anything escape. Have you ever seen that?
No, and I don't believe it would work.
What does work?
I don't believe that.
It does work. It's happened.
I'll believe when I see it.
All right, well, I have proof that it works.
I was told when I was young that if you did that, you could pop an eye out.
You could do some damage, and one man has. A man, this is both of my stories this week come from the Huffington Post, but I actually heard about this elsewhere as well. A man has caused serious issues to his body by refusing to allow himself to sneeze.
This is like when people refuse to fart. It's very bad for you.
It is bad for you. So this man has ruptured his throat because when you have to sneeze, it's going to come out eventually. And if it's not going to come out this way, it's going back down. So he's now damaged his throat by refusing to just sneeze. So you can't stop yourself from sneezing outward, but it's going to come down inward. I enjoy sneezing, personally.
Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, nobody wants to sneeze, but like when you have that itchy feeling, it's more comfortable to just let it out than it is to not let it out. It's kind of like it's an itch, like it keeps nagging at you until you finally do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just got to do it. So, yeah, I thought that was weird that the guy actually ruptured his throat by refusing
So it's
to
not
sneeze.
your eyes, it's your throat.
Yeah.
All right.
So you said it was your grandmother or your aunt?
I don't actually remember at this point. I mean,
Okay,
it
well,
was
your relative was
literally 30 or more years ago.
your
that
relative
I
was
told
not
this.
completely wrong. You'll mess yourself up by not allowing yourself to sneeze. So,
All right. Have any of your favorite videos been kicked off YouTube, or any of the people you watch demonetized in the last?
So we were
6
just
months?
talking about this just earlier today. I don't watch anything on YouTube. So first off, I must say, all of you people who are in bands, never send me a YouTube video to see if I like your band or not. Send me an MP3. I'm not going to listen to it. I don't have time to sit around in YouTube. It's just not my thing. When I'm at work, I listen. No, I just want to finish. When I'm at work, that's when I listen to stuff. So MP3s are good. But we were talking about it with my roommate Zach, who usually is behind this board. He's out at a concert tonight, and he told me that they're taking videos off of YouTube that are basically it's Google's version of censorship. Is that what you're getting at?
So some of the videos being knocked off YouTube right now are DIY and also commercial gun videos.
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
But also increasingly political videos as well. And
Is it towards one particular persuasion over the other?
right now it is.
It is.
But we all know how that kind of plays out in the long run.
Wait, it
you
is?
know?
They are targeting a certain political mindset.
Well, I mean, if you want to call white supremacy political.
Okay. So not just like a conservative who's talking, but they have to be like an actual
Yes. Well, they're
supremacist.
demonetizing a lot of political videos all over both sides of the spectrum. I don't know. I mean, to me, like when I see something of that nature get taken down, I'm like, this is good, but in the future it's going to be bad. Like that kind of stuff always blows back on the left. But anyway, the point is a lot of these video producers, the gun the DIY gun and commercial gun in particular, have started decentralizing their palette and are putting videos up amongst other places on Pornhub.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, if you
We literally had this conversation. This is interesting that you brought this up.
Yeah, if you are wondering where all your favorite DIY gun videos went, try looking for them on Pornhub.
Okay.
Hopefully soon we'll have riot footage on there as well.
See, I feel like that, as somebody who is a big advocate of the Second Amendment, and I will say, and we're going to get into the protests that are going on in Washington in a little bit.
You'll actually be asking.
Oh, I'll be
that
judged
later.
on that. Okay.
You'll be judging.
Or I'll be judging, on that situation. So let me say I am sympathetic to some of the things that they're talking about, but I am still an advocate of the Second Amendment at some level. I think reasonable gun legislation, I'm okay with that.
We'll get to it.
We'll get to that. But my point is, I can easily see it working with Pornhub. Like, I think there's nothing like sexier than like a fiery woman with a pistol. And I could easily see myself getting into like the gun advocacy videos if they go the Pornhub route.
Well, I don't think they're actually making pornography. I think
they should.
I mean, perhaps.
I think that would be a great idea. And they could sponsor this network.
All right, what's the next one?
All right, the next one we have has to do with let's see here. We've got a tank. Okay, so what's your favorite thing to drink? Like your favorite alcoholic beverage? I know you don't drink as much anymore, but is there a
big alcohol guy?
What do you like to do?
I mean,
What would you do for a
I guess when it comes to alcohol,
or not even alcohol, just what would you do for a
Oh, I love me a green tea or Emergency, those weird powder packets.
Man, you need to get out.
I drink I drink a lot of kombucha. There you go.
Okay.
I drink a
What would you
metric
do
shit ton of
for
kombucha.
a kombucha? Great. What would you do for a kombucha? If you wanted to steal a bunch of kombucha, what would you do? What extremes would you take?
I mean, I would let a not stealing, but what would I do for one? I would let a fucking bacterial colony live in my room on my shelf. Apparently, it's where I get a lot of it. I don't know. I might hijack a truck. Why not?
All right.
Or like, I'd take up to 2 hostages.
There we go. Now you're thinking. See,
Yeah.
that's the kind of level. It's kind of like, what would I do for a motion sensor trash can?
I feel like 3 hostages is too many for food.
Well, one man went to that level, in a way. The man decided to attack a store. And he attacked a
I
store
loves kombucha.
in Moscow. And so basically what he did is he took a tank, he hijacked a tank, and he rammed the tank into a liquor store to secure 1 bottle of wine.
That is a dude having a rough day.
Yeah, it says a man rammed an armored personal carrier into a shop window before climbing through the rubble to steal a bottle of wine in a town in northern Russia on Wednesday morning, according to local media and video posted on social media. The man had swiped the vehicle from a privately run motorsport training ground nearby, driven it through the forest and into the town, a small town, and rammed it into a state store or a liquor store, whatever they have there in Russia, to secure that bottle of wine. So there you go. You would have thought in Russia he would have went for vodka or
Right?
something. Yeah.
Also, if you're gonna, ram a store, take 2.
Take 2.
You
There
have
you
2
go.
hands. Take 2.
Exactly.
You know.
So great. So yeah, he did it. So good for him. So that is your weird news of the day. I want to get into election law and the protests and everything else. Maybe what we should do. Just thinking, since we're all over the place with Standard Broadcast going first in today's show, and because you're going to ask me some judging questions that will lead into the next topic, so let's roll right into the judging segment. I've got the gavel.
All right.
I, Brian Crawford, judge here in Pittsburgh. I'm going to come down with rulings based on questions that Michael Cohen asks here on River Talk on the River's Edge Radio Network. What do we have?
All right. The first one up, a New York City councilman is trying to pass a law giving workers the right to disconnect, essentially banning after-work emails and text messages from employers. What do you think, Brian? Do we have the right to disconnect? To essentially legally tell our bosses to fuck off as soon as we're off the clock?
Well, you said off the clock, so we're talking about non-salary personnel?
No, but when we're not at work.
I think it depends on your job. Some people are always at work.
Do you think that the economy has the right to demand that we be always at work?
Some jobs I do. So I think it depends on what level in the job you are. If you are a CFO of a company and something happens that is going to cause financial turmoil for that company, I think you have an obligation to respond.
CFO is not getting a bunch of that's not who we're talking about. Those people set their own fucking schedules.
Well, are they going to be
realistic?
Are they going to
here.
be set? Well, some people just never stop working. I know some CFOs that are just nonstop. They don't stop working. I think it depends on what level in the company you are. If you're a manager, I think you are on call. If you're the clerk behind the register, I don't think they should be harassing you when you're at home. If you're the graphic designer, I don't think that they should be harassing you when you're at home. So I think it depends on the position you're in. I think it depends on what you're getting paid for, because a lot of times your pay is dependent on what they expect out of you. So like my job, for example, whenever I leave work, and I don't get paid a salary that dictates that I respond to messages when I'm at home. If you're going to pay me accordingly, then I have to deal with that. So I don't like this rule. I think if I knew, so am I right that it assesses all employees, or is it just
I don't
certain
know
pay
exactly.
levels?
I guess the question is even if you're being paid a salary, if you're doing 40 hours a week in the office, is it fair for them to force your overtime to essentially 24 hours a day?
Depending on your job, I think okay. I think
Wow.
depending on your position.
We are different on that. We can agree to disagree. But
Well, I think it depends on. I think it depends on your position. So, like again, if you're in the bottom part of if you're one of the top managers of the company, yes. And I think if you're yes to a point. So you shouldn't be able to be forced to work around the clock.
This is the right of the employer to contact us, right? Not the right of your employees to contact you. So it's not workers contacting the manager here. It's higher ups contacting lower downs.
Okay, then I can see that. So but I also think it depends on what level in the company you are. So if you're a store manager, for example, and there's a bomb threat at your store, I feel that your upper management has the right to at least contact you and let you know. And I think you as a store manager would have an obligation to unless you're out of the country or out of the state or something, you would have an obligation.
Bomb
to
threat?
come down.
What actually going to invoke child pornography? I mean, these terrorism really?
That's happened to me. I was in a bomb threat. So that does happen. I was in a bomb threat. Actually, it's a really funny story.
Narco traffickers? I mean, what else?
So this happened. I was working at Target in Greensburg, and we had these shoplifters, and they were trying to steal from the store, and the store was onto them. The people who were undercover were following them, and these people kind of caught on that they were being followed. So they pulled out the cell phone, and they called the police, and they made a bomb threat.
That's hilarious.
So then the police called they didn't call the police. They called the store to make a bomb threat. So the way it works at Target is the fitting room answers the call, and all of these people were there from corporate, and they were assessing our readiness in an emergency situation and how prepared we were for things like that. So the fitting room gets the call, and this guy says it's a bomb threat, and she thinks it's a scam. She thinks it's those people, those big shots from corporate coming in to assess the store. So she then puts the guy on hold and transfers him to security. And then all of a sudden we start evacuating everyone from the building, and we're waiting out in the parking lot. They bring in the police dogs. They search the store, and it turns out that it was an actual bomb threat. The guy then gets the pair, because I think it was a couple, they get charged with terroristic threats instead of simple shoplifting. And the people from corporate were extremely impressed with the way that we handled the situation.
So you think that some random store manager should have gotten called for that day?
Absolutely. I would want to
Why?
be called if I was a store manager.
You essentially got a prank phone call.
Because you're losing how much profit and that could affect
There's some
you.
other store manager there. That's
There's
you're off shift. There's always a store manager.
You're not a shift worker as a
That's your
store
fucking
manager.
that's your
As
fucking
a store
day
manager,
off.
you're not a shift worker.
This
You-
is why I
you're
don't accept
responsible.
promotions.
Well, I understand that. That's why I'm not accepting a promotion at my job. So I'm going to come down with a guilty. I think it's a bad law.
All right.
I'm against it.
Elon Musk is
heard about
running
this.
around saying that he's gonna delete the Facebooks for SpaceX and for Tesla and his own. Now, obviously, that's a good thing to do, but given that his company is working on a lot of the same technologies that Facebook are, like with the Neuralink, where it's going to be a cell phone that is just wired through your brain and stuff like that, is it just kind of him trying to like not get caught up in the bad tech brand, or do you think he actually gives a shit?
I think he's looking for free publicity.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. I don't think he cares. I just think he's looking for a free headline, which he got. We're talking about it on this show. I've seen it talked about on other shows as well. I don't know. It annoys me. Here's the thing with
Guilty
Facebook.
of being a fake ass jagoff?
Yeah, before I want to make a quick
Yeah,
comment.
please.
I think I have mixed feelings about Facebook. Part of me, I can't stand Zuckerberg. He's a thief. The entire Facebook concept was stolen by other people, and he paid out as well. So there is.
I don't really care
there's
about that.
money
Since
on the
I think
record.
it's a terrible thing to introduce to the world in the first place.
Well,
but
I think it's horrible that he stole someone's idea and he's capitalizing off of it.
it's like robbing heroin dealers.
So, that being said, I like that Facebook exists for small businesses because small businesses who don't have the money to advertise, it's a way for them to get their message out there. So, I think it's good for that. I would like to see Facebook heavily regulated to the point where it gets away from what it is now, and I think it would be a great platform for people to just reach out to different businesses and see what's going on, and a great media platform for independent media consultants and things like that. So I think there's some good aspects to Facebook, so I'd like to see it transform. But as far as Elon Musk goes, he's a jagoff. He's guilty, and I think I'm going to charge him with using his money to fund public transit. And we're not talking about the loop, which I'm in favor of, by the way, but investing his money in existing public transit to get it better, because he said that he trashed public transit recently. So I would like him to now fund
The
public
capitalists
transit.
love to go for the fucking tax loopholes and then trash public systems and then explain why they should be replacing them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
no, the tragedy, the commons that rich people always talk about is basically these fucking assholes ruin everything for everyone and then come out and say things in common don't work because assholes like us ruin everything for everyone.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can think of an easy solution to this one. It's got bayonets involved. All right.
He said that, not me.
All right. Next one up, another Senate bill. We're in the legal section. This is your area this time. All right. So a new Senate bill.
U.S. Senate?
Yes. Is holding platforms more accountable for the speech on the platform. Specifically this time, it is an attempt at an anti-sex trafficking bill, but what I'll loosely call like consenting sex workers, whether or not you can have consent under fucking capitalism is anyone's guess, but consenting sex workers basically say that this is making their job more dangerous. As an example, Craigslist has gotten rid of their personals section.
Okay.
Backpage, which was a prominent page for sex workers to meet Johns. And so basically, this law is forcing sex workers back out onto the streets.
Yeah.
Essentially, where, as of a couple of years ago, they had created these relatively well, not regulated, but used like review networks almost for Johns, and so they could have warning profiles for certain customers and all that kind of stuff. And they're basically saying that this bill is destroying all the infrastructure that they've created to keep themselves safe. The people passing the bill are basically saying that this infrastructure gets used for sex trafficking.
Which it does, and that's the sad part. So it's a provision of the internet that came down through the court system where they tried to hold companies like Facebook, for example, responsible for the content that was posted, and the arguments of the companies that I can't remember the company that was in that was being attacked in this lawsuit, but they basically said that we're not a newspaper. We don't edit the content. People just publish it on our page. It had to do with like web hosts. So for example, what I would post on the River's Edge, we use Wix. So then Wix would be held responsible for the things that we would post on the River's Edge. And basically what was determined was that's unfair to expect those companies to be responsible because they're not actually editing. Maybe that's a bad example, but it's kind of that's from what I understand, what I've read up on this specific issue before today's show. So I feel like you as a company should monitor what you're doing. I don't know if it should be a law. I
guess I feel like we lose all of our rights, or if you want to call them rights, freedoms almost. Though too, and there was a prominent speaker a few years ago, Jacob Applebaum, and he worked for Tor, and he used the phrase "the four horsemen of the infopocalypse." Basically, would be terrorism, drug dealing, child porn, and identity theft. And he was like, these are basically the four things that are going to be used to take everything from us, internet-wise and communications-wise. Well,
see, I don't think. I guess the root of the problem is not pornography. Prostitution should not be illegal.
Well, yeah.
And that would solve the problem right there. Then I think it would be easy to go after people who are sex trafficking, because then you wouldn't have to work the prostitutes. And what it is are men who sell themselves for sex, are they considered prostitutes too, or is there a different term?
Yeah,
okay.
well, I mean, sex worker, prostitute, whatever.
So I didn't know. Sometimes there's like a male and female word for the same job.
Sure.
So it's the same.
Well,
word.
I believe back when prior to prostitute or sex worker, back when you had like hookers, I think the male term was like gigolo or something like that.
Okay.
Right? But I mean,
so they're all prostitutes. So I think that.
Sure.
I think that
they're all sex workers. Well, I mean, because it's not just prostitutes, though, right? It's also like dominatrixes and I don't.
But I think
don't
that should be
know who else.
legal, and if that was legal, I think a bill like this would be easier to introduce, because then you wouldn't have to worry about those people being caught up in it. It would just be targeting people who are selling children and things like that for sex, which is horrible, and you're going to rot in hell for eternity if you do something like that. So.
Right.
I guess I'm opposed to the law under the current realm that we live in, the current world that we live in, but I kind of like the idea of going after people who are dealing with sex trafficking. So I'm going to say that they're guilty. It's a bad law, but I think I'm not going to sentence them to any jail time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to force them into counseling where they can force them back into committee. They can reevaluate the law and maybe change it into a grander law that also legalizes prostitution.
Ooh, speaking of committee, have you seen the Death of Stalin movie yet?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it was so good. It was so funny. I really liked it. It was like Seinfeld if the cast had been leftists running a horrific dictatorship. It's fucking amazing. That's my review.
Good to know.
All right.
We have to check that out.
We got two more, or we got one more and then a two-parter.
Okay.
I guess we already know the answer to this. Zuckerberg came out and apologized for the Cambridge Analytica stuff that we were talking about last time. Given that articles on the Cambridge Analytica debacle came out over a fucking year ago on Motherboard, is this like the fakest fuck? Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
Motherboard had an article called "The Data That Turned the World Upside Down," like over a year ago. I've been trying to talk to people about Cambridge Analytica for the last 14 months or whatever, and people look at me like I'm a fucking crazy person. And now all of a sudden it's in the headlines. Given that we knew all about this a year ago, is this the fakest fucking apology?
Well, it's definitely a fake apology. He came out how many days later and apologized after it broke on the major networks? So I did not know about this a year ago. So this is news to me. And I was not shocked at all, but I guess I didn't really feel anything, because I was just like, yeah, it's Facebook. Who's surprised? Who's surprised that Facebook's selling you down a river and not really putting any regulation into their program? And this is why I do think that Facebook should be regulated at some level by the government. And I think it is a fake apology. He's a loser. I mean, he's a sociopath, in my opinion, Mark Zuckerberg. He's a guy who stole the company from a couple people who were twins.
Again, to me, that's just like robbing heroin dealers. It's like not a real crime.
And he literally rolled out the company the exact same way that they had planned to roll out the company. He literally stole it, in my opinion. And the money shows that. He had to pay out a settlement. The courts found that the twins were correct. So this guy doesn't care. He has no feelings. He's just he's a thief who he became one of the world's wealthiest people by stealing an idea.
Right.
So how sorry could he be? He is sorry. No, I'm wrong. He's very sorry. I think this apology is genuine. He's sorry that he's losing his ass in the stock market.
Yeah.
He's sorry that he's got the bad publicity. Is he sorry that your information was stolen and he got a quick buck? No, he's not sorry at all.
All right.
Guilty.
Nice.
And I think I'm going to force him to give all of his money back to the people, him and his $1 a year salary. That bastard.
All right. Last one's a two-parter. We got the March for Our Lives. I know you've been itching to talk about this one. So first question seems to revolve largely around mass shootings. The truth of the matter is that so far this year, 5 times as many Americans have been murdered by the police than have died in mass shootings. Is this kind of a distraction from actual state violence? You know what I mean? Like, is having marches around this stuff while the things that Black Lives Matter were protesting this time a year or 2 years ago kind of almost like a hijacking of the narrative, or at least suppressing it with louder shouting about something else that is actually a much smaller threat?
I want to know who's funding this group. What has bothered me about this group, watching the videos of the protests, so I'm all about kids who want to go out and protest. They have the right to under the First Amendment, and I think it would have been really something special and cool if these kids organized a national movement and a national protest on Washington because they felt like their lives were at risk. But looking at the video in the giant stages, let's just say we work every other week, 3 hours long a meeting for an entire year to get stages that aren't even anywhere near the size of those stages. And for the music festival, the Millville Music Festival, we all work full-time jobs. And they managed in a month to come up with these massive stages, professional branding. And it just screams of astroturfing to me. And astroturfing is basically when large corporations come in and plan a protest and pretend as if it's grassroots. And that's what's bothering me. Not the individuals who were there. I'm sure there's many people who are individuals that go there and they're passionate about the issue. They care about the issue. They're genuine. But the money behind it really, to me, almost delegitimizes the message that they are trying to push. Because when you see this somebody who's a professional graphic designer designed the logo for the march.
Oh, well, I mean, there's lots of activist professional graphic designers. I mean, I used to live in DC.
But a bunch of kids...
If you need something for a good cause, there's 1,000
I'm just saying a bunch of kids that would organize something like that, they're all in high school, supposedly, who are coming to march. They managed to organize it and fund a giant protest like that, working their part-time jobs at Subway and McDonald's.
Well, no, I mean, there are anti-gun
groups. And I guess I just feel like I don't think they're major
corporations. I think they're NGOs.
I just feel like it's lost some of its genuineness in the corporatizing of this protest, whereas if it were just literally kids coming together, like I think like what they did when they came to Florida and they pushed for gun legislation, that seemed very genuine to me. This does not feel genuine. This reminds me of when Freedom Works got involved in the Tea Party.
So this kind of brings me to the next one, which I guess we can just lump into one, which is this just the left's, like, to me, this seems like the left's version, like mass shootings are to the left as Islamic terrorism is to the right, where it's like actually not a way any of us are going to die. basically, but it's overhyped and overexposed. Like, do you know? For example, do you know anyone who's died of a fentanyl/heroin overdose?
Of a heroin overdose, yes.
Okay. Do you know anyone who's died in a car crash?
I've not died, but
Do you know anyone who knows anyone who's died in a car crash?
yes.
Sure. Do you know anyone who's killed themselves? Not to get dark here.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anyone who's died in a mass shooting?
No.
Do you know anyone who knows anyone who's died in a mass shooting? And I'm not saying people don't die. I'm not one of these. Oh, they're actors. But like, do you know anyone who knows anyone who's died in a mass shooting?
No, but I'm not far removed.
Right.
I know. I bet you I know somebody who knows someone who was stabbed in that Franklin Regional stabbing.
Okay. So my point is though is statistically, yeah, and like I don't know anyone who's died in a terrorism attack. I grew up 20 minutes outside of Manhattan, or 40 minutes outside of Manhattan, and so I know someone. I knew someone in high school whose dad died in that. But I mean, like, that's my point. Is like, these are not ways that Americans actually die with any regularity in any statistically significant numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're so much more likely to die from fucking fracking fluid in your water, or the terrible food that we're fed. And I feel like all this shit is just being misprescribed pharmaceuticals or just overprescribed pharmaceuticals. And I feel like the mass shootings and the Islamic terrorism and stuff like that are just so overhyped in order to get us riled up about something that's not actually a viable threat.
I think for the kids who are in the situation, they have a different perspective.
Totally. You can have a personal
And I will say,
vendetta around it. I mean, if
looking at the numbers, we do have a problem here in the United States versus any other Western society. No other Western society has the types of mass shootings that we have here in the United States.
Absolutely. But also, on the list of priorities, I just don't see it. You know what I mean? Like, other countries have other problems, sure. But I guess, like, what I'm saying is mass shooting. 50 Americans have died so far this year in mass shootings. That's not a big number. You know what I mean? It's been given a disproportionate amount of television time, but that's just not it's too many. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like a little bit
I think the problem is, and I see what you're saying, whereas police violence and things, or violence out on the streets and in certain communities, like African American communities, not African Americans, but in those areas.
That's real gun violence, by the way. Like, I mean, I'm not real versus fake, but I mean, like what's going on in Chicago is way more concerning to me than the odds of
I think the problem
dying in
is
a mall shooting or something. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the reason why these get so much more traction, both in the terrorist case and in the school shooting case, is because it's first off, it's shocking.
Spectacular. Yeah.
It happens in a place like this place where it happened in Florida. It sounds like, I've never been there, but it sounds like a affluent or upper middle class town.
Absolutely.
People go there and they expect to be safe, and then something like this happens. New York City in the Trade Center towers, whenever an airplane crashes into the building. When have you ever seen an airplane crash into a building?
Yeah, totally. Couldn't happen to a nicer group of bankers. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
what I'm saying is you don't expect to see that. That's something that's shocking where, it's, you hate to say it, but if it's an area where it constantly happens, it should be a focus of ours, but you get numb to it happening. Yeah. Even with the school shootings, if it wasn't for the kids in Florida standing out and voicing their concerns, we would have already moved on, unfortunately, onto a different topic. So I think people who maybe live in those communities, they're not out there with the public eye on them because it's just life for them. It's a reality, unfortunately. Yeah, that's sad that exists in the United States.
I guess to me it just seems like most gun violence is either the product of class issues, like money issues, right? Poverty, right? People who are taken care of, unless they have serious mental illness, don't shoot other people because you have the things you need and you're not going to risk spending 25 years in prison for the most part, right? And then you have mental health issues, which are like the other basically half of gun violence. And I don't mean to always be the damper on this, but like guns are not more available. It's not legally easier to buy a gun now than it was 30 years ago. What's changed is the mental health situation in this country. And the thing that is quickly being linked to that I've been saying has been linked to that for 15 years now and is only getting worse, is social media and screen time. And those things are shown to cause depression, and they're shown to cause anxiety, and they're shown that if you spend too much time looking at screens, the portion of your brain that reads other people's facial cues and produces empathy and things like that can develop up to 30% less. And what we're seeing here is, as you see the internet and the amount of time that people spend on social media increase, you see an increase in mass shootings. And I don't believe that violent video games are the things that create this, but what I do think is that it's not a coincidence that the kids who started this process, basically the Littleton folks, were avid gamers. And what you're seeing is people who spend a lot of, they were early adopters, right? They spent an inordinate amount of time in front of screens instead of dealing with other humans, and then they lacked empathy. And I think that's the thing we're seeing. So I think gun violence falls into poverty issues where people aren't getting what they need, and mental health issues. And it seems like the Democrats basically, instead of addressing either of those, want to take weapons away from poor people and mentally ill people instead, so that they just can't hurt anyone in their freaked out misery or whatever. And then the Republicans just want to incarcerate poor people and mentally ill people before they hurt anyone in their freaked out misery. The arming teachers thing is just a scam to sell 100,000 more firearms. I mean, that's all that is. That has nothing going for it.
No, I think you're right. I think we do have our priorities shifted. I don't think that we should not focus on school shootings, but I think we should also focus on these other issues.
Which, as a bit of a tangent, food stamps. Recently, a bunch of my friends told me that their food stamps, if you're not working 20 hours a week, you can't get on food stamps anymore. So we've basically done the same thing that we did for welfare back in the Clinton, and it was passed this way under Obama. And the thing is, to have to work to get food stamps, to me, misses the reason that we have food stamps. Because food stamps...
What are your thoughts of time limits where you...
Here's the thing, Brian, and honestly, I think unlimited time limits. And hear me out. I don't think we, as a society, started doing food stamps because it was right or wrong. It's not a matter of charity. What food stamps are a matter of is hungry people do crazy shit.
That's a good point.
Right? So, like...
I guess
to me, food stamps are the tax that we pay for a modicum of stability in our society, right? Like if I'm living in the neighborhood I was living in the North Side, right? I would really like all my neighbors to have at least $200 and however many dollars to spend, regardless of how useless my next door neighbor is, strung out on whatever fucking drugs he's on, or just like can't hold jobs because he has anger issues, whatever it is. I want that dude to be fed. Because to me, it's just a don't rob me on my way home tax. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I definitely see your point. So I guess there should be a way, and the problem is it's not fair for people who are struggling that maybe don't qualify, who are working. And I guess that's always been my issue. For like my dad, for example, was on unemployment for a short time. Not of any fault of his own.
Sure.
He's in a union. They wanted to get rid of one guy. My dad is lower on seniority, so they fired every single person up to that guy to make sure that they could get that guy out of the place. So eventually my dad got his job back with them, and before that he had worked full-time at other places as well. But when he was on unemployment, he's somebody who worked his entire life. From the time he was a child, worked in the family business, then started his own business, then worked. He never didn't work, and it drove him insane to not work. I remember being at home, I would go out to the bar because I couldn't stand being around him because he was just like going crazy because he was a worker.
Okay.
So eventually he couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't get, and he had a hard time finding a job because he was a master plumber with a lifetime of experience, and everybody wanted to hire journeyman plumbers because they're cheaper.
Sure.
They don't have to pay them. So he had a hard time getting the job that he wanted. He also, there was another plumbing company that would have hired him on, but he would have had to be a crook to do it. So he didn't want to do that. So he gets a part-time job, and they cut his unemployment so much that he would have made more money freeloading at home than contributing to society. And I almost feel it should be the opposite, whereas if you're not even willing to get a job at McDonald's, I don't care what your job is, even if it's not really saving any money in the long term for the government, it shows a commitment to society that's giving something to you. And it bothers me when somebody would choose to stay at home versus getting that job. And it's unfortunate that the government encourages you to do that. I almost feel like there should be some sort of reward for trying to pick yourself up out of a bad situation.
I mean, one of the things with unemployment that I found when I was on it, though, is that you qualify for a certain amount of unemployment. And so while your benefits do get cut back, you can stay on them for longer if you're working. So, like, let's say that you get approved for a max of this is going to tell you how little I was making before I got unemployed, but like 5,000, right? You can get that 5,000 basically in 15 weekly installments, or if you are employed, you can get half that much, but for twice as long.
Okay.
A lot of the time. So it can shake out. But my point is simply with the food stamps and the gun violence, basically, is that like I actually think that cutting social nets and things like that are one of the things that lead to increased gun violence in places like Chicago.
No, I think that's a good point. I do think that we as a society have so much money that we could easily take care of these people. My issue
God,
is
if we weren't funding the bloated military, no one would have to go without anything.
and I guess my thing
Fucking
is
insane.
And this is where they cause division, because I remember when President Obama was in office, and he said something that just I blew a gasket. I was so livid. He wanted to give free college grants to inmates. And what's that? Okay.
Go on.
The
Sounds
reason
great.
why I was livid was I couldn't afford one class
Right.
at a state-run, state-funded institution, yet they were going to give grants to prisoners. And I thought, well, what the hell? Maybe I should just go to jail because I can't afford to get a higher degree. So somebody commits a crime, and you can make the argument that, oh, if it's a drug crime, it shouldn't be illegal. But it is at the time, and you know what it's illegal when you take the drug. I've chosen to follow the rules, and I'm getting slammed with these huge financial commitments. So I had said at the time, I said, I'm against this now. I said, now if they want to give me free college and then they want to give prisoners free college, sure, I'm all about that. But I shouldn't be up against a gun financially for following the rules when somebody else...
So to me, this is the
get
issue,
a
right?
free
Is
education.
we constantly wind up, with people like you pitted against other people. And it's unfortunate because the thing is, what they get has nothing to do with what you get. You're not going to get that.
Well, it does have something to do because I'm paying taxes and they're reaping the benefits, and they're not paying taxes. They're costing taxpayer money being in a prison.
Okay, but the amount of taxes that aren't getting paid, you're not going to get taxed less whether or not they get that.
No, my point is someone who follows the rules should get it first, or at least get the same opportunities as someone who's in a prison.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, here's the thing. So sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? You have, as if what we don't want are reoffenders, when those people get out, if they get an education and become employable, they are substantially less likely to commit more crimes. Because when you get out of prison, you're basically fucking unemployable.
And my point is that those people should not be necessarily under the current system. They should be denied a free education in prison. But if they are able to help the people who maybe can't afford it, then give it to them. But you can't reward somebody for committing a crime while you punish someone else for following the rules.
And so again, like, to me, this is just like, this winds up being fighting over the wrong piece of pie. Like I had this conversation with an uncle of mine several years ago where he was kind of hating on illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them, undocumented people, because he felt like they were clogging the hospital system in his part of the country, which does, to be fair, have a lot of them. And he got very angry with me because I was like, well, I mean, like, why are you going after them? And he's like, and the issue essentially is that if you've got a pie and half that pie is going to the fucking military and you're fighting over the most disadvantaged portion of society for this tiny fucking scrap on the corner. And so the issue is that we're looking in the wrong places, basically. Like, your beef should be with the U.S. military, not prisoners who
just
are
the
getting
government in
education.
general with their priorities. They just need to like I said, if they want to reevaluate
Or
where
like
their money's
your
going.
beef should be with rich people who just got a fucking tax cut, because that tax cut could have gotten you and a fucking prisoner.
Sure, and I guess that's my point.
And
is
so
is
to me,
give it to both.
But my point is that you're not gonna get that education before that guy does, because that's a specific program meant to address a specific
And that
issue
should
in
not
society.
exist. That's just the way I feel. I don't feel you can give somebody who's
Sometimes you need to look at things on a larger societal level before you look at yourself.
yeah, my bank account doesn't allow me to do that, and a lot of people don't. It's kind of like
I
when
got
people.
you. I don't have a
Oh, I know.
college degree either.
But it's kind of like people who, would trash Trump because, oh, well, Trump's this, and that. But that person's looking at the glass factory behind their house that's falling apart with their son who can't get a job. That person doesn't have time to worry about societal issues in the government as a whole. That person has to worry about putting food on the table. That person has to worry about their son getting a job, so he doesn't end up on working, needing social programs himself. So that person doesn't have the opportunity.
Well, you can say we don't have time to look at societal issues, but societal issues are today's issues in like 2 years, right? So, I mean, again, this gets back to, do you want these people, when they're released from prison, back in your neighborhood, totally unemployable? Because that's when your house gets fucking robbed, or someone is selling heroin on your block. Like that. There's a direct correlation. It's not theoretical, and it's not ideological. It's actually it's what my grandmother refers to as enlightened self-interest. Right? It's not right this second self-interest, but it's understanding that the things you do come back down the pipeline at you.
Yeah, I just don't know why we can't do both.
Because of the military. Because all of our money goes to a bloated fucking military.
Yeah.
That's literally
It is
it.
unbelievable if you look at the numbers. So, before we head off, I do want to give a special shout out to a good friend of ours, former U.S. Senator Rick Santorum, who, when talking about
Delicious.
when talking about the kids who are protesting, and whether you are pro Second Amendment, anti Second Amendment, or whatever your thoughts are, I think we can all agree that CPR classes is not going to solve the school shooting problem here in the United States of America.
Facts.
And Rick Santorum, to quote him exactly on CNN, he says, "How about kids, instead of looking to someone else to solve the problem," which they're not, first off, that's a bad statement. They're actually looking specifically to themselves in their ability to protest, to try to influence government. And really, I know Rick Santorum was a former Tea Party person. That's no difference than the Tea Party going out and advocating for lower taxes.
Right.
So he says, how about these kids, instead of looking for someone else to solve their problems, do something about maybe taking CPR classes or trying to deal with situations when there is a violent shooter, that you can actually respond to that. And he says they took action to ask someone else to pass a law. They didn't take action to say, how do I as an individual deal with this problem? How am I going to do something about stopping bullying within my own community? What am I going to do to actually help if respond to a shooter? Are those? He said those are the kinds of things where you can take it internally and say, here's how I'm going to deal with this. Here's how I'm going to help the situation, instead of going and protesting and saying, oh, someone else needs to pass a law to protect me. Word salad. That's kind of what I'm thinking when I hear this.
I mean, yeah, it's horrific. Whether or not you agree with the particular thing that they're demanding, I mean, yeah, the idea that you shouldn't protest to get laws passed and just take everything into your own hands is, I mean, that's...
Learning CPR and stopping bullying isn't necessarily going to stop school shootings.
No, it's
bullying
not.
can't take apart, but I mean, you can't stop someone else.
No, I mean,
in
the
their
thing
relationship
is,
with someone. I mean,
if these kids want to intervene in mass shootings, then what they should be doing is essentially protest. I mean, if one is to take an extra legal or an extra legislative approach where you circumvent the legislature, then yeah, I mean, what he's basically suggesting, whether he means to or not, is they should be trying to shut down the gun distributors in their areas, probably also through protest, because that's how you do it. They should be taking out the infrastructure for social media so that people are forced back outside to actually interact with each other like humans. Yeah, I mean, what he's suggesting is nothing short of a large infrastructural sabotage campaign, so far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at what he's saying, and first off, I'm thinking, making a decision to go to a protest to try to convince someone to change the law that's not just going on Facebook and making a whining post. That is taking an individual decision and responsibility and to change a society. So there's that. But also, I have a better idea. A law that we could do. We could change the law in a way.
Students.
Arm the students. Yes. That way, when a school shooter comes in, you don't just have a teacher in every room. No, you've got like a class of 30 kids pulling out the gun, stopping that guy in his tracks.
Yeah.
I think that is the solution.
How young should we arm them, Brian?
Oh gosh, I don't know. When
mean-
when can they start walking, man? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
are there any limitations on any of our rights? I mean, there shouldn't be. It's the founding fathers, man.
Yeah.
Founding fathers, Constitution, Bill of Rights. What else can I say that's like just a conservative talking point that I could throw out there?
Freedom's a big one.
Freedom,
Liberty.
yeah. Liberty.
Liberty is solid.
Ronald Reagan. I
Cultural.
threw Ronald Reagan out there. You know, we're serious now.
Cultural Marxism, Brian.
Cultural Marxism, yeah.
Antifa and the alt left. Helicopter parenting.
You need
snowflakes.
you need a good bully to make sure that the kids toughen up, so that way they don't
Ooh,
result.
A good bully to
sh-
stop the bad bullies.
That's right. All right, that's Michael Cohen. I'm Brian Crawford. Don't forget to go to the Indie-Rockfest. It's the 3rd annual. Do you have anything coming up before we end with a song from Standard Broadcast?
Yeah, I'm doing less small shows and more things that I'm really excited about. So let's April 6th, which is a Friday night at the Brillo Box. I'm hosting Gab's show. It's going to be
Nice.
$5 or $10. I don't know. It's going to be a little bit of money, but it's going to be a fucking high caliber of comedy that you're going to love. And then this is way out, but I'm going hard on this one. The next Laugh Riot that I'm organizing and hosting is going to be at the Roboto again, and it's punk comedy, and it's going to be May 11th.
Awesome.
I'm going to plug that every fucking
Kill
week.
it.
You're going to see sick fucking posters up around the city.
Nice. We'll throw one up on the
John
green
Dick
screen.
Winter, Helen Wildy, and probably Tyler Ray Kendrick on
You're
that
gonna
bill.
kill it, right?
I'm going to kill this city. Wait, what? Kill
You're gonna
what?
the show. You're gonna kill it. Like
We're
you're gonna
gonna-
do really really good. You're gonna kill it.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
You're gonna kill it so hard it could end up in Han Funeral Home, the only
Indeed.
family-owned funeral home in Millville.
and a punk comedy show deserves a green funeral, which only Han can give it in this area.
That's right. That's Michael Cohen. I'm Brian Crawford. Don't forget to tell your Alexa or Google Home to play the River's Edge station on TuneIn and come back next Sunday. This is Standard Broadcast here on the River's Edge, Pittsburgh's voice for local music.
All you wanna say to me is that we better take it slow. Worried that I'm gonna leave if there's no change of heart to show. I'm apologizing always, I mentioned that's not my intention. So sorry to leave, I'll go. Don't you worry about a thing. Listen to me. There's nowhere I'd rather be. A story rich with intrigue. Is it one I've incorrectly spun? Oh, I love your independence. Only love can hide a smoking gun. Like Ophelia, the player's queen. It appears to me these colors don't quite run. Don't you worry about a thing. Listen to me. There's nowhere I'd rather be. Had a talk with myself again. It appears you got entangled too. Maybe I'm foolish twice over, but I want something better than lame conversation to do. Why can't I ever find you? Not surrounded by Mars in